The 36th case of the Mumon, meeting a man of Tao on the way. Goso said, if you meet a man of Tao on the way, greet him neither with words nor with silence. Now tell me, how will you greet him? If you can give an apt answer to the question, it certainly is a matter for congratulations. If you are not able to give one, be alert in every aspect of your life. If you meet a man of Tao on the way, greet him neither with words nor with silence. I'll give him with my fist the hardest blow I can. Get it at once, get it immediately. This is one of Goso Hoen Zenji's cases. Goso Hoen Zenji, who had lived in society for a long time as a layperson, then trained first with Yogi Hoei Zenji. He saw the world of Zen from the outside and knew the negative aspects of Zen monks and priests, and that is why it took him a long time to begin to do his training. At the suggestion of his teacher, he went to Hakuun Shutan Zenji and trained with him, receiving his transmission eventually. Goso Hoen Zenji was very, very deep in his essence. And his koans, all the koans that he gave, show this clearly. The question of Seijo separates from her soul. One koan, which must be passed by everyone, completely expresses humans' deepest, deepest source. The koan of Shakamiroku, of how the Buddha and Maitreya are slaves of another. So who is this other? This is forcing people out of their typical, usual, stagnant ways of looking at things. Then the great koan of the water buffalo passing by the window. There we can see, as Master Hakuin has said, how easily it was for him to be mistaken about that koan. He wrote from a larger space of view about Zen seeing from the outside in, and inside one could see how to see through the negative aspects of monks and priests was part of what he was teaching. Priests and monks who like to brag about their achievements, saying they were so awakened, but living with no essence whatsoever, whether they were able to get through many of the koans of functioning type, or breaking through type, or of subtle speech type, or of the most difficult to realize, or the final koans. There are so many who had lived with none of the experience of these koans, and in that had no clarity nor essence. It was Goso Hoen Zenji who pointed this all out. He hammered in an iron peg for others to see this without mistaking it. And in that statement as well, he was teaching that if Zen has no depth to it, it is useless. And he gave many excellent koans, making that clear. He trained very, very strictly with Hakuun Shutan Zenji, who exhaustively and strictly trained him relentlessly. This is what cultivated him so well and deeply. It could even be said that it was because of Hakuun Shutan's relentless training that he became the teacher he did. In the 48th case of the Mumon, there is a special koan, and this koan is telling about the few who would train without compromise. Here we have a case where this is not a quote which is given in the case we're doing today, but a quote from Kyogen Chikan Zenji from a poem that he had written. Clear, lucid, no hindrance whatsoever. Standing all by yourself, you do not rely on anything. If you meet a man of Tao on the way, greet him neither with words nor with silence. In the Keitoku Dento Roku, this poem can be found. Goso Hoen and others were so deeply touched by these words. He used them himself, and in this way, he tells about what is truly a deep encountering. In the path of Buddhism, if we have a deep fervor, a great zeal for practice, then we will meet the person of quality that we need to meet. And if not, if we don't have that zeal and that vigor and that fervor, we will not meet them. Humans have a karmic connection with others. And if we don't meet these people, it is hard to truly, fully fulfill our way of being. In the Uema Sutra, it says, the person who realized the true, honest way of being human, to realize the path, must be a person who can realize the path in one straight line. That is what is necessary. And if we don't do that, it is hard to meet a true teacher. In a lifetime, what kind of people have we been able to encounter in our lifetime? This is all part of the background of this koan. When Goso Hoen Zenji is saying, if you meet a man of Tao on the way, greet him neither with words nor with silence. Now tell me, how will you greet him? This is not about a martial arts master. This is not about a master of some art, but a master of the true path. We cannot speak unskillfully, yet neither can we encounter them in silence. So how shall we greet them? Hisamatsu Shinichiro gives us the words about this at his introduction to one person, this person went to meet Nishida Kitaro. But Kitaro Sensei was so awesome and overwhelming that the person went home without even speaking a word to him. When Hisamatsu Sensei asked this person how it was, he said, I just couldn't speak. To have met him and not said a word. Of course, even to have just experienced what an amazing person Nishida Kitaro was is already a lot. That still is not the same as having spoken a word, and then, if not speaking that word, to possibly have made a great lack in our lifetime where we might have learned something. To meet the master, our life may be missing something by not having asked the question. If we meet a person like this, it changes our whole life. Our one life, which we will be able to have embellished with something which will help what we are lacking in and increase our intention, our fervor, our motivation. This is a person of the path's most important chance and opportunity. Yet, when we meet them, greet him neither with words nor with silence. Tell me, how will you greet him? Goso Hoen Zenji says if we meet such a person, we must have the appropriate essence to be able to encounter them. Or, Goso Hoen Zenji is saying, you also, as well, have to be the real person and the real thing. People of training cannot happen all by itself. We need to have a teacher to do true training. So how should we encounter Master Goso Hoen? Of course, this is not whether each person has to meet him or on what level they will meet a path person. From the olden days, it was observed on the Zen path that if one didn't ask, then they would never offer an answer. So you would have to be the one to ask. It has to be one who is the size of vessel that can hold the depth of answer of a true master. He apologizes himself now for talking about his own story, but when the Roshi was 17, he met his teacher. At that time, he was always angry at himself for how he behaved and how he was. It was at the request of his parents that one day he was running an errand to the headquarters temple of Myoshinji in Kyoto, in downtown Kyoto, and for this he had to ride a very crowded JR bus that went from the Kyoto station to the north gate of the Myoshinji headquarters temple. It would usually be a bus ride that would take about 40 minutes. from Kyoto Station to Miyoshinji, but it was in the middle of the rush hour, in the beginning of the morning, a bus full of students and people going to work, getting on and on and on and off, and he went way to the very back of the busy bus. He grabbed a strap as the bus wound through the many streets of Kyoto. The bus was full of people who were squishing each other, the only bus at that time of the morning full of people. Everyone was bored and standing uncomfortably. And in the middle of that, he saw one old priest. He had a beard and hair, even though he had on a koromo, so he decided it must be a priest. But only this person was quiet, sitting down, reading, and shining. He deeply detested priests. He did not want to become one. But this one was so different, suddenly his whole life was changed. Wondering where the priest was going, he was stunned that he was going to the exact same bus stop that he was. So he followed him as he stepped into the temple, in the headquarters temple of Reunin. And Roshi continued on his errand and asked at the place where he was going who that was. And they said, oh, that's Mon-san. He is the head principal, the person in charge of the Hanazono Buddhist College. And at that moment, he knew he had to go to the Hanazono Buddhist College. So he attended there, and he studied Zen and was taught by that priest, and found out that that priest was the master of the Zen dojo at Shofukuji Sodo, and he knew that he also had to go there. In fact, this is how life's teaching for us is. This is how it is activated, and this is how it works. It is because he still lacks something, perhaps, and he speaks here today thanks to that singular meeting. His life was so deeply changed, decided, and affected by it. If he had not met him, he never would have done training, and he never would have had this extreme change in his life. This relates to this case as well. To encounter a true master of the path is so important. And also to see that we encounter this because of our deep struggling, our deep challenges and pain, which bring us to their presence. In the Vimalakirti Sutra, there is also a part where we see that, where there is a response like thunder of the Buddha when a heretical priest comes to visit the Buddha and asks him to express something without speaking and without not speaking. The Buddha said nothing, and yet he gave a thunderous silence. And in this, the visitor prostrated and left. The disciple of the Buddha, Ananda, asked the Buddha, why was the man so joyful when he left? You were silent, and he just prostrated and left in a joyful way. The Buddha answered, in the world, there are so many types of people. There are some that just at the very sight of the whip, they run fast. Some who are hit lightly and they run fast. And some who are, even if when they are beat with the whip, they barely run, but they run a little. And in this way, the heretic had felt that deep essence that the Buddha was expressing with that thunderous silence. And in this way, the heretic priest was able to perceive the depth and what the Buddha was saying with that silence. The Buddha had not answered a word, nor had he been just silent. He answered with all of the energy of the whole universe. Anand had not been able to see this, meaning that the question must also have essence for the person who's asking, or it will not work. If you give an apt answer to the question, it certainly is a matter for congratulations. If you are not yet able to give one, be alert in every aspect of your life. In his commentary, Mumon Ekai says, no matter what, it has to be kind, clear, careful, and judicious. We can't talk noisily in front of a master, nor can we be silent. We have to be appropriately attentive. There is nothing more important than this, to experience a master's state of mind. If you cannot respond, then chew these words carefully. Each footstep, every single hand motion, we have to taste his state of mind, and then in every single moment and motion, move with greatest care. Goso Hoen does it and saying it, and because Goso Hoen does not tell us how to do it, Mumon does in his commentary. If you can give an apt answer to the question, it certainly is a matter for congratulations. If you are not yet able to give one, be alert in every aspect of your life. Further, in the poem, if you meet a man of Tao on the way, greet him neither with words nor with silence. I'll give him with my fist the hardest blow I can. Get it at once, get it immediately. These first two lines are from the words of Kyogen, taken exactly as they are. If you meet a man of Tao on the way, greet him neither with words nor with silence. We have to deeply look at these words and not add or forget anything about what's being said here. I'll give him with my fist the hardest blow I can. Get it at once, get it immediately. If you don't understand, come here and I'll hit you as hard as I can. These words were commented on by Master Hakuin Zenji, saying that it is unnecessary to say that line that sounds so violent, but it could also be considered the Zen way of speaking with great energy, because this cannot be explained. We can only be ultimately extremely careful and do it totally. Then it is fine to speak or to not speak, if it is appropriate. As Master Seppo would say, so, drink some tea and go home. The path of Zen, if one has truly trained or is still in the midst of training, has to be always humble and meticulous in every detail. As it is said, 50 years of life only knowing shame constantly. There is no way we can say everything we did was always right. If we are not able to see our own mistakes honestly and own them, we have in the Lotus Sutra the teaching about Jofukyo Bodhisattva, who would bow to every single person he would encounter and tell them, I see you as a completed Buddha. I have only great respect for you. Saying this to each and every person. We have to see in this way, get it at once, get it immediately. And with these lines, Mumon finishes the poem.